All right. Good morning. I'm Ari Rothman. I'm one of the assistant principals, and I am a grade level administrator this year for the 9th and the 12th grade. And unless I win Powerball and my agent calls, I'll be with your kids all 4 years. And this is really just an opportunity sort of touch base, and I will turn this program over to two of our jewels in the school counseling crown, and Lori Keene and Lindsay Ryle, who will talk about sort of capping, sort of freshman year and what to expect moving forward. And then we'll open up with some questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Rothman. Is this working? Yes. Great. And just as Ari said, today, Lindsay and I were going to be filling you in with what we've been doing with your children this year, and also a little glimpse of what's going to happen the next few years. So thank you all for coming out this morning. And I know I'm super energized by doing this in person. It's our first in person for myself personally.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be
A lot of Zoom. So
not
this is
staring
nice.
at a computer square right now. So I'm sure this is refreshing for you all as well. So I certainly cannot believe we're almost in May, right? Even though we're freezing outside, we're in the fourth quarter. But we want to make sure that you all kind of know what we did with your children this year. Day one, it was a half day for them all, right? And then we had freshman orientation in the afternoon, where they heard from a lot of key people in the building. Then we broke up into small groups where we had 8 of our counselors actually got a chance to meet with just their counselees in a classroom. It was packed, but it was really nice just for all of us counselors to see our students. We could tell that they were hopefully smiling under their mask, and now it's nice to see them, some of them without mask. During that orientation, we made sure they knew what supports were available here at the high school. We assured, we gave them tips for success, such as using your planner to be organized, because oftentimes in middle school, they remember everything. Life is easy, but as kids get older and older, there's more on their plate, so we really want them to start using a planner. We also talked to them about getting help with their teachers. Our teachers here, hopefully as you all know by now, are awesome, and they want to get to know your kids, and they're there for help, and we have RAM time, in addition to teachers before school, after school, if they have a mutual free, etc. So it was really nice to touch base with them then. Then shortly after all that, we saw you all on Zoom. We had the freshman orientation prior to open house, and I know with my freshman group there was a good amount of parent turnout, which was great. It was a nice opportunity for you all to get to know your counselor. As I said, there's 8 of us. We shared a lot of details about our school, about our developmental school counseling program. We also, I want to remind you all that we pointed out our school counseling website. It is tons of information. There you'll find objectives for each school year, all of our video presentations that we do. These are all through the PFA that we're doing here today, but all the school counseling programs you could find under video presentations. Also on our website, there's a really helpful school counseling guidance update that comes out once a month that tells you all about what's up and coming, not only for grade specific, just for all the grades as well. And then quickly in the fall, we started meeting with the students in small groups where we administered a learning styles inventory. Because often, the transition to freshman year, we let the first, month or so, they get their feet wet. And then in November, we wanted to pull them together in small groups so they could start thinking about, how they learn best, what types of things that they could control. So with this learning style inventory, they were able to see, do they prefer a structured environment like a desk, or do they take more of a casual approach to that? And with that, they came up, there was a worksheet that was involved with that as well to get them thinking about ideas of what they could change, such as, a little background music is good, having that little distraction. So maybe a little calming music to help, not hear the clock tick. Or, we told the kids too, it even honed down, do they like a warm environment or cold environment? We told them all, don't worry, Mom and Dad, they're not cranking up the heat, but maybe, have layers, and especially that would be helpful here in school because some of the classrooms are freezing, so bring layers. And they did a worksheet that we did collect for each of our students. And that worksheet was helpful because in the next step, what we did with all your children is that we had one-on-one meetings with your kids. We call them freshman appointments. I think you all got a letter home about that. And it was really nice opportunity to get to know your kids at a deeper level. Some of the students we've met prior to that meeting, Often they come in with schedule questions or a variety of things, but we wanted to check in how their transition was going. And that was also right after the first quarter closed, so we could also talk about grades, see what they're involved in, because of course we want students that are connected and feel part of the community. We also had a chance to look over that that worksheet that they did with the Learning Styles program to talk about what was your takeaway, what are some things that you could try, etc. And we also did a tentative 4-year academic plan that was then sent home. So it was really nice to meet with them so they know what activities kind of align what they may be thinking, such as my kid said, oh, I love writing. Well, we're going to make sure they're aware that we have a journalism course here at the high school, and we let them know about the Spectator Club that does our student magazine, just to kind of put together all the interests and so forth. Then in the spring, we met with all of your kids again, one-on-one, to do course scheduling. And it's really nice that we do this one-on-one. Way back in the day when we were here, we'd have everybody sit on the gym floor, and it was a small group discussion, but thankfully technology has evolved, and we do it one-on-one with the students where we could check in, see how they're doing. It's a nice opportunity to also make sure that they're involved. In short, your students are going to have about 5 core academics and an elective each semester, or full year health and PE. So their schedule is going to look very similar to what it did this year as well for your rising sophomore. And also, we always stress the need for balance. We want to make sure that they're not in over their heads, because remember, JV teams, varsity teams, clubs get more of a commitment over time, and we want students in courses that they're challenged but not overwhelmed, right? And we certainly talked about at that meeting, hopefully they tried a handful of things this year, tried an elective maybe that they didn't think they wanted, but they got it, and just to open up some possibilities if they liked it. And we would love for them to dive into some of their activities a little further as an upperclassman. And if for some reason your son or daughter doesn't seem to be really doing much after school, shoot us an email, have them come see us. We could talk about that. It's never too late to get involved. And Mr. Rothman is the head of all of our clubs and intramurals, and there's all of our whole listings all right on our website. And as Mr. Rothman always says, if somebody has an interest that we don't have a club for, talk to Mr. Rothman. Kids start clubs all the time, which is really, really, really exciting. So just to remember, just to recap, the balance is not just for academics, it's for extracurricular activities. We want kids healthy, going to bed at a decent time. Also, you know, they're so busy with schoolwork and activities. I also want to make sure that you guys are having family time too, because as you know, time goes by so fast, and before you know it, in a blink of an eye, they're going to be a senior. My oldest son is going into kindergarten next year, and I think that's impossible, so I can't even imagine what you all are thinking. And now Lindsay's going to be talking to you about what's up and coming for the next couple of years.
Yes, so thank you, Lori. I'm going to cover mostly just 10th and 11th grade. I know it does go by in the blink of an eye, but we won't get too deep into 12th grade at this meeting. But so we will cover 10th and 11th grade, as well as some activities, some things that your kids can consider over the summer to keep busy year-round. So starting with sophomores, we will be meeting, we counselors will be meeting with sophomores in groups using the Naviance software, which if you either have an older child or if your child is really passionate about the learning styles inventory we did on Naviance, you may have seen it or be familiar with it. If not, you certainly will down the road. It's a tool that we use for freshmen with that learning styles inventory. For sophomores, we'll do a career cluster finder. So we'll start to, we'll administer that inventory to the kids where they'll answer questions about their strengths, their interests, classes that they're enjoying, topics that they're fascinated by or passionate about. And from that, it will generate a really nice comprehensive report of different career clusters that might be of interest, that might align well with your child's portfolio on Naviance. So from there, that will generate that list of different careers, different post-secondary options. So whether your child is thinking about a 4-year college or a 2-year college or a certification program or going right into the workforce, Naviance will lay out all of the different options that are available, different degree majors, different programs that each student can pursue. So that will all come off of the first meeting that we have with your children as sophomores. On Naviance, there's also a resume builder that we encourage sophomores to begin with. It's a blank template that they can go in, and it's nice when they start it earlier on in high school, so it's just kind of a running, working document where they can outline accomplishments and activities and their achievements over their 4 years in high school, so then when they graduate, they have a nice resume. So that is another feature on Naviance we definitely encourage kids to use. And then for you all, so as your kids are sophomores, we'll do 2 parent programs next year. So the first will be in the fall, and we will start to go over standardized testing. So I know beginning of sophomore year is a little early for that, but we do like to familiarize you all with the SAT, the ACT, those big standardized tests that will come. Not until junior year, but again, we do tell all sophomore parents about those. And then the second sophomore parent program is in the spring, so little over a year away from where we are now. We will meet with you all to, again, familiarize you with Naviance and go over some of the preliminary stages of the post-secondary planning process. So a lot of sophomores, even some juniors, are not quite ready to talk about life after high school yet, but we will certainly be just giving an overview of some of those next steps toward the end of sophomore year and as we look ahead to junior and senior years. So those will be the parent programs for you all next year. Then we'll be on summer break as your kids are approaching junior year. So just to cover some things that students might want to get involved in over the summer, and could be relevant for this summer as well if your children are trying to come up with plans now. We do encourage students to stay active, stay busy, get involved in something, but also take a break. It's summer vacation. They should be taking a break from all of their rigorous courses and activities and sports and events and everything else they have going on during the year. So staying active, but also using that time to relax and recharge and spend time with family and not be on a computer up until wee hours of the night writing papers and things like that. So students might be interested in part-time jobs or a camp counselor or a babysitting job somewhere, perhaps going to camp themselves, not working at a camp, but at a sports camp or a theater camp in the arts, any sort of involvement that they can do to continue, stimulating them and getting them involved in things that they enjoy. You can also check on the Department of Labor. The Connecticut Department of Labor site will have a list each year of jobs that are available to 14 and 15-year-olds. So if your child is looking for a job, you can find some. Obviously throughout town they can look around or come into the College and Career Center within the counseling suite. Mrs. Carroll always has jobs and volunteer opportunities for students. But the Department of Labor website is another place where you and your kids can look if they are interested in getting a job. And then after the summer, so we'll get into 11th grade now, so when your kids come back as juniors, in the fall of junior year, so in October, they will take a PSAT. So for most juniors, that's the first time that these kids are sitting for a long standardized assessment of this format. So it's really good practice for these kids. The scores do not get sent to colleges or sent to anyone. It's just a report that they will get and we will see. So the PSAT, that will be the fall of junior year. And then once those reports become available to the kids in the winter of junior year, that's when the counselors will go in. We meet with juniors as a group, and then we meet with juniors individually. So we'll not only go over the reports and the interpretation of each student's score, but also talk about that whole post-secondary planning process in much more detail. So again, I mentioned sometimes sophomores aren't yet ready to talk about life after high school. We see the same with some juniors. Some of them already know exactly what they want to do. Others don't want to think about it quite yet, but we will have several meetings with your children as they're juniors, both all in groups, and then we'll also meet them individually. And we'll have a family meeting where the parents and the student and counselor will all sit down together, and wherever that student is in the process or on that, wherever he or she is as far as planning for life after high school, those are really nice, fun, exciting meetings where they're, again, tailored to each individual student and family. And we just talk about the process of junior year and as we're starting the college research phase and looking into different programs and opportunities for life after high school and things that, important steps to take that second half of junior year. Let's see. So then it's senior year, which I said I wouldn't
Jump in real
talk
quick.
about. Yeah.
Also, junior year, we have a parent program for you all as well. It's typically in January in the evening, where you'll just meet with just your son or daughter's counselor in a small group, where we outline the whole college process and the research phase, et cetera. So we have programs for you all throughout your whole high school career.
Thank you, Lori. Yeah, junior parent night. So
Yeah,
that falls
fun.
right in between those big junior meetings that the counselors have with all their juniors and before the junior family meeting. So we'll be seeing a lot of you guys in 11th grade. And then, as I mentioned, we'll get into senior year. That once senior year kicks off, we start the year with senior appointments. So again, we're seeing, well, first we see the seniors in groups, and then we see the seniors individually. But it's not uncommon for, I mean, me personally, I have some seniors who check in with me every week in the fall of senior year. So it is, we really work very closely with seniors and seniors' families and really just solidifying those plans, making sure all those deadlines are being met and that each senior will have options and different opportunities available after graduation. But the takeaway here, we do have programs every year for not only your students, but also for you all as parents. So we really like to take the team approach and have everyone on the same page and everyone working together to ensure the success of all these kids and really just love working together with all of you, partnering and helping these kids through their years here of high school. I do want to echo what Lori said about the website too. I can't stress enough how important it is to just check up on it, maybe monthly, go in and see the monthly counseling updates. We'll have them grade-specific updates. So if there's any important deadlines or registrations or events coming up for specific to your child, they'll be posted there. On the website, we also have the video presentations. We have, obviously, contact information for not only all of the counselors, but the College and Career Center and our wonderful administrative assistants down there and our registrar. So a ton of resources down there available in the counseling suite. And then that was it.
Can I jump?
So, yeah, please.
I want you to take a deep breath, not forget everything you just heard. But I want to say very sincerely that what the school counselors do has been grossly undersold here. You've heard about programs. You've heard about, getting to know your kid as a learner. You've heard about preparation for life after high school. But what really, really is, I think, lost unless you experience it firsthand, which I do on a regular basis, being a grade level administrator, is inherent in all of what was just described is an individual who is sort of the head of your kid's team. I'm just the hood ornament on the car, okay? They're the engines. And what's really, really important to understand is what I often refer to as the counseling piece of school counseling. This is not just about courses and grades and getting into a good college, all right? That's unfortunately what a lot of people, and I raised my kids in an adjacent town very similar to this, and it's unfortunate what a lot of people become, and I use the word intentionally, fixated on. What matters is the 4 years. What matters is the learning process. What matters is kids getting to know themselves as individuals, as learners, in conjunction with parents, helping them identify interests, talents, things they enjoy. I look at, for instance, the co-curricular programs as every kid should find some means of enjoyment during the school day or right after the school day. It shouldn't just be about getting the grade. It shouldn't just be about learning. And in all of these programs, in conjunction with grade level administrator, all the kids' teachers, anybody who is involved with your kids. It really is working with your kids, getting to know them, helping them get to know themselves, identifying areas that might interest them, because it also plays into course selection of electives. Areas where, I often say, I taught history at the college level. I should never be in a math class at all, let alone an accelerated math class, all right? And several hours with a therapist even wouldn't help me. But that's part of who I am, and every student has interests and strengths. Some are great at everything. But this ongoing discussion, not just these programs. Programs are like the skeleton. The flesh and blood is really the ongoing discussions, the relationships that are developed. You can count up the number of meetings. That doesn't even begin to represent what goes on, and the ongoing discussions with teachers, with everybody. And that's really important. As we talk about moving forward, what I always think is the number one priority and what we need from parents is helping your kid be patient, catch their breath, and not just focus on the end product, but the process. Because particularly with your 9th grade, situation has been there haven't been real, consistently rigorous demands for very good reasons for the last couple of years. And so this hasn't just been a 9th grade year of transition from middle school to high school. This has been really, and the teachers of 9th graders have been focusing on this, not just catching up, but recognizing what the expectations are for a sophomore in any class. So it really has been a year of very, very rigorous and purposeful reorientation to being a student. One of the things I learned early on in the school year, when we moved out of the world of Zoom, was kids and teachers had to really relearn how to work together face to face. Not just the faces in a box. Yes, we had chat rooms, we had this, we had everything else, but this has really been, even socially, a reorientation. Now layer that on top of first year in high school and the expectations of high school. And that's something we've all been aware of and will continue to be aware of. But I don't want you to lose sight of the fact that with all of these programs that are happening, all these formal things, there really is a through line, an ongoing relationship that really is very, very powerful. And it works. And it allows me, for instance, as a grade level administrator, or any teacher who has a kid, to go and learn more from all of these relationships. So I just think it's important that you keep that in mind. Middle schools, I often say, they're teams. They're explicit groups that are set up to do everything for the child. There's just as powerful, if not a more extensive team here. It's a little more behind the scenes. And that really is, as we move forward, what is important to keep in mind. Parents, you're part of that team. That discussion, that we can all have in the best interest of your kid. But it really matters that even going into sophomore year, kids be patient with themselves, continue to learn, stretch a little bit, reinforce the good habits that have been, and so on and so forth. It's natural growth. And that really is important, that in terms of thinking what next, it's more of the same. And just keeping the kids grounded for this process. That's really important. Okay, that's it. I said something good. That's it.
Thanks, Ari. Any questions that you may have? Yeah.
I think it pertains to my daughter, but also I think some other people here talking. Any thoughts on how you get an introvert child to come talk to not only teachers but their counselors? My daughter is
let me just first repeat the question so the audience at home and everybody could hear. The question was about how do I get my introverted child to go and see their counselor? You know, if they're not struggling academically, how can we get them to come in? So.
Yeah, I mean, I always encourage parents to let their kids, go advocate for themselves and go, use their voice. But a lot of times, particularly with ninth graders, they're not as familiar with the school. They're not as familiar with who we are and what we're here to help with. And just as Ari said, yes, we do these programs and we'll touch base with your kids. There's times built into the schedule that we'll see them every year, but sometimes they don't know unless they've gotten to a point where they specifically need something or do have to come see us that we're available. I mean, we're here every day, so we are available for those things. I have had parents sometimes will shoot me an email or give me a call and just say, hey, can you pull my child in and just check in, or if there is a concern, or just you want your child to be more involved, or just to be get more comfortable or more familiar with his or her counselor. And in those situations, I mean, I'll speak for myself personally. I'll just call the student in, ask about classes, ask about grades, ask how the year's been going. I just kind of frame it as just checking in with all my freshmen this week, which is not true because that would take a very long time. But I kind of just discreetly will pull the student in, and that's one way to just kind of familiarize them with where I am, where my office is, how to find me. I'll show them, the secretaries on the way in with whom they can make appointments at any time. So sometimes just shoot an email or give a phone call to your child's counselor and let them know that they might benefit from a check-in, or just that you are kind of encouraging them to seek out more support.
And also at these check-ins, we'll also just remind, especially the freshmen, that the teachers are there for help. Even though their grade may not be struggling in the course, but just to know that the teachers are accessible. They're there, even at our freshman appointment, we say stop by at any time, even if it's just to say hi. The good stuff too, that they got a spot in the play or that they're trying something new, but they don't always. So a little notification from a parent, we'll gently call them down and have those little touch base chats. And with time, that'll come. And also, a lot of freshmen especially, they don't know how to get extra help from teachers. So if we feel that that's a little bit of an area of need for the student, we'll role play. Because it's not abnormal for underclassmen, even some upperclassmen, to know how to ask for help. So we're there to help bridge that gap as well. Yes?
I know this is thinking farther ahead, but I have a freshman in college now, and SATs were just kind of gone away for his entrance into college, but it seems like they're coming back, and I wanted to get your perception on what you think that we'll have to think about for our sort of freshmen as they kind of go through. Is the trend really less reliance on SAT spell tests to get into universities, or is it dependent on the university?
So the question revolved around SATs and what's up and coming for your freshman class, as last year in this admission cycle, the majority of the schools were score test optional, which means if you're happy with your scores and it's reflective of who you are as a learner, then send them. If not, and you're below their average, then not send them. I'm happy to take this one and
Go for it.
we don't really know what it's going to look like in the next few years, but in pre-pandemic, there was always a list of test optional schools, and I think it's safe to say that that list is going to be bigger than what it was pre-pandemic, okay? So there's still going to be tons of schools that are score optional, because through this pandemic, they realize it's not the best indicator of college success. They're looking at the children, the applicants as a whole, but also, though, coming from New Canaan, we do like kids to sit for one or two tests, because some schools, maybe their REACH school is score optional, so they're not going to send those scores because they're a little below. But that favorable school, that scores may be above average, so they're going to send them. And I don't want you getting too worried about that right now, because we help your children through all of this. In addition, every junior is going to sit for the in-school state SAT. So even if they're not going to be doing the traditional Saturday course, they'll be taking the traditional, the state SAT, which is usually in March or April. It's too early to tell what month that'll be. So it'll still be a little part of them, but it may not be applicable for all students. So we really hope they keep score optional. And some schools are saying yes, top schools that they're going to ask for them, but right now, just focus on enjoying and not worrying about that. And certainly no test prep this summer. No. We hear that all the time, that some families do that, and that's a waste of resources and energy, because they're not going to remember that test prep course when it comes to junior year, second semester. Any test prep is like training for a marathon. You do the 12-week course, boom, take the test. So this summer, if you're worried, SATs, because that is a, layer of maybe fog that could be weighing on your shoulders, just have them read. Find a book that they love. Our librarians have a nice little student volunteers as well that they have put together every summer, right before the summer, a beautiful list of book recommendations based on interest. So just have them read. Even if it's just a magazine, if they really don't like reading, just reading something will help.
No, that's true. That's actually, everybody and every bit of legitimate research will tell you, in terms of summer work, there really is nothing more important than kids just reading. And it could be, again, magazines, something of interest. It doesn't have to be a textbook. It doesn't have to be a technical book. Something just enjoying, because that's really what all the research on reading and learning says, is just keep reading.
Is there no mention of an ACT anymore? Is that gone?
There's still an ACT. Here at NCHS, we do the PSAT for all juniors will take a PSAT, and then the state test is the SAT. So
So fall junior year, PSAT, spring, SAT.
So students they can choose to take the ACT. They wouldn't take it here, during the day. It would be at a different site or a test here, but it's a separate, so ACT is its own test, so it's a separate website, it's a separate organization. The SAT is College Board, so it's, that's their own company as well. Some students do have a strong preference, one test or the other. To use Lori's marathon analogy, the SAT is more like a marathon, where the ACT is more like a sprint, so it covers the same content. But it's the way that the questions are delivered and the way that the test is structured that's different. So some students do prefer that. The ACT is quicker. It's more of a recognition test. So you read the question and you know the answer, you don't. Whereas the SAT, longer passages, more reading, a little bit more analysis. But again, your children will have opportunities to take practice questions or do a practice test or see where their strengths lie. But again, that's a couple years down the road.
And I'm sorry.
PSAT, then the ACT, and then, or ACT, then the SAT, and I guess, personally, I never liked this.
Yeah.
It was good practice.
Right.
So I thought it was great to just take one of these each year, and then I felt more confident taking the SAT, because I knew that was the test that the universities really considered, gold standard, right?
No,
Well, they look
colleges-
at ACT, SAT. Sorry, they're comparable. Colleges don't have a preference. If you're sending scores, it's either ACT or SAT. So neither one
Yeah,
is.
and in general, research shows 70% of kids score about the same on the SAT as they do the ACT. Colleges have conversion charts, et cetera. And we certainly don't want to have kids studying for the ACTs and studying for the SATs, because ultimately that could take away from their academics, which their transcript is #1 at admissions. So a lot of students, if they're curious about the ACT, fall of their junior year, they could go to a local test prep company and take a free ACT practice test as a diagnostic and say, okay, here are my PSAT scores that come out in December. I did this free diagnostic either online or we have paper copies or through a test center. What should I score better on? Probably the same, right? And if so, well, what test felt right? What test felt more comfortable? And then stick with that, because that'll just help with their overall confidence.
The other piece is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think both tests assume a certain body of knowledge and skill that's common in the junior year.
Right.
So even if kids are accelerated, let's say in math, if they start taking this freshman or sophomore year, they're just not going to be prepared for it. So that's the other piece, that I think. What I also hear from students who have been approached by college coaches, and I'm talking about athletic coaches, is, they're having these conversations, even informally, much earlier. and there's pressure to take a test earlier or whatever to meet the NCAA or college expectations, you know, I don't know that that necessarily matters, based on what I'm hearing from kids who are in the recruiting cycle. The other piece of it is, and this is important, is that some colleges are approaching kids in the sophomore year. Please, if your kid is an athlete who is considering athletics in college and is approached by college coaches or college staffs or whatever, please make sure that their school counselor here is involved in that conversation or at least aware of it. Because this is what happens. It's rare, but it happens. Coaches talk a good game. They're not admissions. And I have seen situations over the years where a kid is told by a coach, yes, you're solid, you're good, just got to do this, whatever. And then, when it really is too late, they find off admissions never signed off. So anything having to do with the college process, whenever it starts from your end or from the outside in, please, I'm telling you this because I've seen it, make sure your school counselor, your kid's school counselor, is at least aware. Because they're the ones, not the coaches, not even our coaches, who, if necessary, can reach out to admissions and find out. So that, to me, I've seen it. Again, it's rare, but there is an enormous, enormous rush if kids feel and parents feel, oh, good, my kid is going to get into this school because of athletics. And maybe a superb athlete. But those promises don't always work out. And you get to the end of junior year, nothing has been done with any other schools because you're being told it's all set, and then it really is too late. So that's one thing. I really want to stay away from the college process in this discussion. But it is starting earlier and earlier. Kids in their sophomore year are being told, yeah, you're fine, you're going to come here. So it's just important, please.
Any other question? Oh, yeah.
So getting back to the resources that you guys have here, because I feel like a lot of it was closed in COVID, you know, when it first started. So maybe people missed it a little bit, but can you speak a little bit about the writing center, the math center? And then also, I don't think that the club was in person this year, it was all on Zoom, right? Or was it?
The club fair, the 4 weeks into the beginning of the school year, we have a club fair. What we've done until the last couple of years was bring in one period, we set up in the cafeteria, and it's like Grand Central Station at 5 p.m. on a weekday. And beginning this school year, we had done it virtually in the past. Beginning of this school year, we weren't clear on really packing that many kids in a small space. So we did it again virtually, all right? There have been, it's always been posted and updated online. And there are videos attached to many of the clubs that would serve the same purpose. Our plan, obviously, for the beginning, and we bring in sophomores as well. We do freshmen and sophomores and all students new to the school. So our plan is, as with everything else now, going back to as much in person as we can.
Okay, fantastic. So anybody who maybe didn't get a chance to sign up in the beginning could look online?
Anytime.
And get on their email list?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, no, it's set up that way. And again, one of the things that I enjoy doing is sort of overseeing and supervising it. And going back to the question about reaching out to kids, it is quite common that whether it be a counselor, a teacher, or me, I'm hesitant to call a kid in because I think they're in trouble right away if I do. So I'll usually go through a counselor and simply say, you know, send the kid my way, we'll go through the club thing, whatever. We do a lot of social engineering behind the scenes. But that's, the club fair is not the end, it's the kickoff. And it's a very fluid club listing, because it's, 99% of it is all student-generated. So, anytime.
And there was also a question about the writing center and the math center and
Yes,
other
I'm sorry, go
supports
ahead.
that are there. Some of your students may have reading writing center on your schedule. That was based on a recommendation from SACS. Those of you rising sophomores, you may hear from the English department over the summer if your student scored did not meet the writing benchmark in freshman English, they may be recommended to take the writing center, which is a scheduled course. However, the writing center is also open as a drop-in basis for all students, all grade level. If they have a free period or during their study hall, they could sign out, attend the writing center. They'll either going to be a history or an English teacher who's in there, who's going to help them with whatever essay that they have a question on. Then that writing center will then fill out a nice Google form to email their teacher. So let's say they're working on an English paper. The writing center teacher will then email the English teacher saying, oh, I met with Johnny, we worked on this, these are some of the suggestions, ba-da-da-da-da. So it's a really nice opportunity, and we encourage all kids of all grades to drop in the writing center. I know a lot of freshman English teachers make it mandatory for a couple of the assignments just so they start to have that practice of utilizing that wonderful support. And Math Center is a support that is scheduled. So that would be on your student's schedule if the teacher feels that they need some more additional support in math. But always the math teachers are always available for extra help. They could utilize that RAM time to go and see their math teacher as well with any questions. So.
Or a concurrent free period, or if they're in a study hall and their teacher is free that period,
It's a beautiful thing.
sign out and go.
Anything else, folks?
The final schedule is going to be taking place this year, because I work on another school and we're going out finals.
We're doing finals. The schedule is going to be, we're going to do a review day for 4 classes, then have the exams, then another review day, and then the remaining, when I say 4 classes, periods, let's say 1 through 4, then 5 through 8. Mirroring what we have with our blocks, our rotating block schedule. But we are going to do finals.
Sorry, I was a few minutes late, you probably already covered this, but what's the last day of school? Because there was talk that.
Oh, no.
We didn't cover
That's
that.
a
don't
beautiful
worry.
question.
What that is?
Good question. Ari.
Good thing Mr. Roth-
I think at this point, the final day of school is July. No, I will tell you what is going to happen. And I believe it is set. 17th, Friday the 17th.
Because the school calendar online says the 17th, but about a month ago it said that it was the 21st. There was like.
Well, here's why. There are 2 more work days for the staff than there are school days. So teachers, the staff will be back on Monday and Tuesday, 20th and 21st. But the last day of school is the 17th. Of course. I hope it stays that. Yes?
Does graduation stay?
Graduation is set for the 16th. Then it's the 17th. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, days like graduation actually get set by state law at the April board meeting.
Anything else, folks? Great. Well, you guys were a wonderful audience. This is so exciting to
Thank
have
you,
you all in
everyone.
person. Any questions, feel free to reach out to your school counselor if anything else arises, and thank you all.
No, of course.